Okay, thanks a lot. Well, I think you can handle it on the weekend.
I hope so. We'll kick the rear ends. You'll see.
Okay. Good luck, Mike. Thank you very much. And that's sports.
Very cocky. Very confident. But you need that in this kind of sport.
Well, that's an interesting story to follow. We'll see what happens tomorrow night.
Chips to be determined, and one of them was to be held this weekend here in the capital. The Ottawa Bootleggers were to have played host to the U.S. Minor League Football Alliance title game, but for now it's still in limbo as the league's commissioner has put their plans on hold.
The controversy was started by the Brooklyn Mariners, who were beaten 42-14 by the Bootleggers in the semifinal at icy Lansdowne Park Saturday afternoon. Brooklyn has protested the game, claiming the Bootleggers used industrial staples in their shoes, giving them an unfair advantage. The Boots admit they tried the staples in the warm-up, but claim they disregarded them because they were too uncomfortable. They claim they're victims of a conspiracy.
Definitely is more to it. Racine, who is the defending national champ, that's where the commissioner's from, he's under incredible political pressure to have the national championship back in Racine. They just can't handle us going to the dance and leaving with their girl. And we've earned the right to be at home, and as far as I'm concerned, we're going to be at home. The whole thing is just a big non-issue. If it wasn't this, it'd be something else. It was a farce. During the game, we were the ones who were checking their shoes. They had some people with track spikes on, and they changed them at halftime because they knew we were onto them. If we had stuff in the bottom of our shoes, I really don't think we'd be going to the referees asking to check the shoes.
A citizen. Senators told to stay home. Turn it over, and here it is. Bootleggers under heavy fire. And if you watched CJOH Sports last night, you would have seen the interview with Mike White of the Bootleggers talking about the latest controversy surrounding that team. Mike White will be one of our guests this morning. Last weekend there was a football game between the Ottawa Bootleggers and the Brooklyn Mariners, and the final score was the Bootleggers 42, the Mariners 14. Brian Smith was at the game, and he had this report when it was all over.
2,173 fans braved sub-zero temperatures, and it didn't take long for the Boots to give them something to cheer about. A familiar combination, quarterback Rod Moores to wide receiver Jamie Straw for a 35-yard major, 7-0 early in the first quarter. A couple of turnovers led to the Brooklyn Mariners' first touchdown. On the 8th try from inside the 5-yard line, Frank Bianchini finally took it over at 7-all. Ottawa went ahead at 7:28 of the second quarter when Moores hooked up with wide receiver Steve Lalonde, 14-7 at the half. The Brutes broke it open in the third. Moores hit Straw for an 86-yard touchdown, then ran it in himself from 35 yards out. All of a sudden, it's 28-7. Brooklyn cut that margin by 7 in the fourth quarter with a 14-yard major by Rich Visco, but it didn't matter because on the ensuing kickoff, Mike Sheeran went 85 yards for a touchdown, thanks to a great block by Jamie Straw, and that put the game out of reach. The final score, Ottawa 42, Brooklyn 14. The Bootleggers are in the final of the United States Minor League Football Alliance, and they'll play Racine, Wisconsin here at Lansdowne Park next weekend. From Lansdowne, Brian Smith, CJOH Sports.
Of course, the question is now, will they indeed be playing the Racine Wolverines at Lansdowne Park this weekend coming? Because, and this is the other headline in the paper this morning, under fire from those same Wolverines. Mike White is the coach, and Alex Saunders the general manager of the Bootleggers. Gentlemen, Alex, let me begin with you, because as the GM, you're probably on the phone daily about this thing. What are the Wolverines saying? They're crying foul.
Well, it's not so much them, it's the Mariners. They're crying foul. They're claiming we used illegal footwear in the game last Saturday, which is not the case. A few of the players were experimenting with putting staples in the bottoms of their shoes, and found it completely ineffective. They were experimenting in the warm-up time. And besides that, they went right through the soles of their shoes and punctured their feet, so they soon got rid of that. And so the thing is just a rhubarb to raise a controversy, I think, to get us out of it, because it might be unsavory to have Canadians winning an American title.
Both of you fellows can look me in the eye and say there were no staples used in the shoes of any Ottawa Bootleggers last weekend?
No, none. A bunch of guys tried them in the warm-up, didn't work. Anyone watching the game, or anyone who's even looking at the clips, Brooklyn right after the game were saying, "Hey, you got a hell of a team. You really kicked there."
Yeah.
And the reason we beat them is, aside from the fact we're better, is we're smarter. When we kicked off to the corner of the fields where it was icy. When they kicked off right down the middle, gave it right to our returner and just went straight. They just didn't use their heads. All their pass patterns, they tried to run outs to the sidelines where it was very icy. And if anyone saw how we scored, it was just with patterns where you just run straight, or when we're running posts into the middle of the field where there was better traction. So
you guys represent probably the purest love of any sport that exists. You do it for no money. You take those long, cursely bus trips. You leave families and friends on the weekends. You work out. You know, you're doing it with half all heart and half a pocketbook. And yet, this league, and you yourselves were involved in controversy a little earlier. It seems like the Wolverines just don't want the bus trip. It seems like you don't want to go there. I mean...
Well, what's happening... Okay, it's the Racine Raiders.
Raiders, I'm sorry, the Raiders.
We just beat the Brooklyn Mariners, and we're supposed to play the Racine Raiders. They don't want to come here. 3 of their coaches were at the game. Their head coach came up to me after the game and said, "We've never seen a team like you before." They're scared to death. You can see it. I mean, they just don't want to come here. They think that the only hope in Hades that they have is if the game is played down there. Then they claim that, well, we never knew you were ranked #1. I mean, it's just a big farce. As far as the Mariners, well, they're the ones who had improper footwear. We were complaining to the refs about their footwear, so they changed them at halftime. The whole thing is just manufactured. Racine Raiders and the Brooklyn Mariners are 2 of the top football teams in the U.S., and historically it's been like that for the last 10 years. Now, the whole thing, I imagine they thought it was going to be a replay of last year's final, Brooklyn and Racine.
Yeah.
And there was no problem until all of a sudden, here's little Ottawa, comes out of nowhere and just beats the living daylights out of
You really
Brooklyn.
didn't come out of nowhere. You guys were around last year and terribly successful, and this year...
Yeah, well, see, last year we ended up ranked 9th in the top 10, and the top 8 were involved in national playoffs. And this year, luckily, you know, things worked out, and we were undefeated, and we get the #1 ranking, and that means home advantage. However, Racine, it's like when you're in grade 4, you know, it's my ball, I get to play quarterback, or I'm going home. We can't make these guys come up.
But whose league is it? Who's got the clout here? If they decide they're not coming, what happens then?
Well, then they have to forfeit, and we'll be declared national champions. But I don't want to back into a national championship. I'm not Carl Lewis, you know. To us, we earn the right to kick their rear ends. And I'm issuing a challenge. If anyone from the U.S. Embassy is watching, get on the phone, because you're a bunch of chickens. Get your rear ends up here. Your whole country is based on a myth. We've kicked your rear ends in pretty much every sport that we've done. Hockey, you're useless. Football, you're overrated. You come up here, you're second class. Canadians are what the CFL is all based on. You Americans down there in Racine, come on up here. We got something for you.
What a challenge.
It sounds like WWF, I know. Okay, but the main thing is we want these guys here. We've earned the right, and they're afraid to come up here. They start whining about the field conditions, the length of the field. It's been all right all year. And the quarterfinals, the Boston team admitted we're a better team. They had no problem with the field. This is just a big smokescreen to attempt to either back out of having to come up here and play us, or to get their game switched down there. Well, it's just not going to happen. You're a bunch of chickens.
Wow. Alex, what do you do next year? I must say, if I heard a criticism of the Bootleggers beyond that one bad time you had, was that you are kicking everybody's butt, and it's time to get some bigger and better and tougher competition. Is it there? I mean, you can't be beating everybody 14-14, 42-14 forever. You've got to get better competition. Is it available?
I think that the reputation we're building will attract the better teams. They want to play us to prove something to themselves and others. I mean, you know, good, solid teams that have some integrity behind them will want to play us. Hopefully, they're close enough that it's financially feasible for us to get there, for them to get here.
There is a step up then from the teams you've been playing.
No. There might be some better teams lurking there, and also our example might bring up the standard of others. To be honest, we might be imitated, and that's all right. And I think we're worth imitating.
From a dollars and cents perspective, can you survive?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. It's tough, but we can survive. We're putting this thing has grown so much that we had no idea that it would grow the way it has.
Yeah.
So now we have to get out of the front part or trunk of your car kind of operation and get more business-like about things, and with all the economies that requires to pull it off.
If the riders turn the corner, and there's every threat they will next year, is that going to hurt you or help you?
No, I don't think so. We're complementary to them. We're filling in a level, a strata that was a vacuum before. And I say we're part of the football community, that's filling that vacuum and doing a very good job. And it gives a store window for the Rough Riders to look at some talent.
Yeah.
And it so happens that they're all Ottawa guys right now, just about.
Yeah.
But all those potentials are there. We are not in any way rivals to the Rough Riders. They're not rivals to us. We're part of the football community.
So, Mike, the challenge is on.
Challenge is on. Let's see if they pick up the gauntlet.
The Racine Raiders this weekend, Lansdowne. Is it Saturday or Sunday?
It would be Saturday.
Saturday afternoon. What time?
It'd be 1 o'clock.
Well, just like Randy Sexton says, when we get the franchise, you can say, when the game. 1 o'clock, Saturday, Lansdowne. Yeah. Thousands will be out. Yeah. The lovely Elizabeth will be in your corner.
Oh, no, I don't think we need lovely Elizabeth. I think they're just going to need to bring a lot of body bags if they show up.
Gentlemen, no prisoners.
Good luck. Thank you so much. We'll be right back. Don't run away.
This weekend at Lansdowne Park. Charges that the Boots used industrial staples in their shoes in last Saturday's win over Brooklyn were dropped today. The league's commissioner says the final game will be played in Ottawa, likely Saturday afternoon at 1 o'clock. And now the Bootleggers and the other finalists, Racine, Wisconsin, are negotiating on the details. Host one either. It will cost the Bootleggers between $15,000 and $18,000 to stage the U.S. Minor League Football Alliance final. They'll play Racine, Wisconsin at Lansdowne Park Saturday afternoon.
The Bootleggers play football for fun. There's no money to be made, and the same is true for the coaching staff. Until a month ago, the offensive line was the responsibility of Alex Saunders. It still is, but now he has additional responsibilities.
And I'm not sure about the tickets going to
The 61-year-old Saunders, a retired military and public servant, assumed the general manager's duties after a crisis in late October, and now it's almost a full-time job.
It's a little bit like mopping up the floor with a tap running, in a sense. The phone rings all the time. There's decisions to be made, and nobody to talk to about them, so you do the best thing, and common sense has to prevail.
There's hotel rooms to be booked and tickets to be sold and press releases to be written and a myriad of other things for Saunders to worry about, but his biggest concern is the shape of the field here at Lansdowne Park on Saturday afternoon. And Lansdowne Park officials are doing their best to make it playable.
This ice here, surface here, this is what we're confronted with. We're trying to get rid of it. By backloading with the loader, we're crystallizing the snow and makes it a couple more back drag, and it comes out to the surface.
Any chemicals you use or anything to get the ice off?
Well, we've got a fertilizer that will supposedly melt the ice without damaging the turf itself.
Meanwhile, it's just another thing for Alex Saunders to worry about. A member of the Ottawa Rough Riders in 1949, Saunders sees a similarity between the players of his era and the Bootleggers of today.
Improbable mix of people as far as how they make their living, and that's how they were in 1949 when I played. And these guys, I guess they're a throwback. They're a Jekyll and Hyde mix, and they're a fun bunch and great people to work with.
Football Alliance, how's that? Well, Newsday's Mark Van Dusen went out to capture the mounting excitement.
They haven't posted the big Bootleggers game on the billboard at Lansdowne Park yet. They're afraid too much advertising and the crowds could get right out of hand. The Hoopla is kind of reminiscent of that other football championship in the city last year. The Grey Cup, remember? Now, everywhere you look in the city, it's Bootleggers, Bootleggers, Bootleggers. The hype is at fever pitch. Joanne, you've seen the ticket scalpers on the street. You've seen the Bootleggers souvenir hawkers. Doesn't it make you just a little bit jealous?
Oh, I'm so jealous. I mean, I sit in my office right out here on Bank Street, and I can't get any work done because of the noise and the hoopla. And I tell you, these are rowdy fans too. I've never seen so many people wear black. I mean, look at, I'm even wearing black today.
Absolutely.
And I am really jealous.
Yeah.
I can't wait till the day that we're in a championship.
Yeah. What do you say about those Bootleggers?
Kick butt.
Advanced ticket sales are brisk. The lineups are already forming. Go get 'em, Bootleggers. Hello. Hello. And as you can see, the field here at Lansdowne Park is in top championship shape. It's practically like summer. Who says we need a sky dome? Daugherty here sells Bootlegger souvenirs, and he sells they're just selling like hotcakes. How many you sold today, Lou?
3.
300 you mean, hey, Lou?
No, 3.
Like I said, they're selling like hotcakes. Thanks, Lou. We'll see you later. Now, you may not feel like getting caught up in all the hoopla, but come on, have a heart. The Bootleggers have. They've finally given this city something to cheer about. And some last-minute serious advice. Get here early. These seats are starting to go like crazy. Come on, folks, let's practice our Bootleggers cheer. Go, Bootleggers, go! Mark Van Dusen, BBC News, Ottawa!
Oh, my.
Well, he's going to have lots of company come Saturday. You know that those bootlegger fans, they don't want to get cold too early. And tomorrow on Newsday, Nancy Rose is going to introduce us to 3 of the bootlegger players and what they do in their real jobs, because, of course, the pay on the bootleggers team is a little bit low.
At 1 o'clock, a bunch of hometown boys will try to beat the Americans at their own game. The Ottawa Bootleggers will play for the championship of the Amateur Football League Alliance. Every other team in the league is American. The Ottawa Bootleggers will play for the championship, and the players don't do it for money. So why do they play, and why do they win? Nancy Rose tried to find out.
It's not quite the coldest night of the year, but it's definitely the slipperiest. Despite the ice, the Ottawa Bootleggers are doing their very best to chase football history.
High, strong right, 126 on 2 on 2. Ready?
So who are these guys who could become the first Canadian team ever to win an American football championship? When center Tim Saunders isn't crunching bones on the offensive line, he's crunching numbers at Coopers and Librand.
I thought he wanted me to be the treasurer because I'm an accountant, but he said, "No, Tim, I want you to play. I want you to, do the long snaps and see what happens." I wasn't too crazy about it at first, and I went out, and the next thing you know, they said, "Well, you might as well learn a few plays while you're here." And next thing you know, I was starting a couple of games.
Yes, folks, strip away the helmet and the pads, and you'll find an accountant underneath.
There's a certain confidence level that you have when you're part of a winning team, and you have an attitude that things are always going to work out somehow, that you'll find a way, or that if things are down, that you're going to come out on top. So I guess it does come out into the office and into your lifestyle.
We are saying that the bus.
That's a tough one. Segregation.
At St. Mark's in Manotick, Paul Brown has his own team of bootleggers in the making. He's a teacher, and a school trustee, and a linebacker.
You have to work yourself mentally, and you have to work yourself spiritually and also physically. And playing for the Bootleggers is the physical component. It's a great release, and it's good to get out with the guys.
Finally, here's a guy who comes a little closer to the image. Linebacker Mike Morris manages the fitness store, and this week he hopes to celebrate both a championship and the birth of his first child.
What happens if the baby comes on Saturday?
That's a loaded question. I'm not sure. It all depends on how far my wife's along in the labor.
Sorry, dear, you'll have to hold it up.
Exactly. Yeah. Just hold off. She'll do it for me. She's a good woman.
And this is the last time we're all going to be together for a game. This is it. There's no more chances. It's all come down to one game.
The Bootleggers are stockbrokers, Green Hornets, mechanics, surveyors, geophysicists, and accountants. And somehow, they've all come together to form Ottawa's most successful team.
We're not just playing for Ottawa, it's for Canada. The only Canadian team in history to ever beat the Americans at supposedly their own game.
Does that mean something to you?
It means everything to me.
When we're in the huddle there and the team's threatening to score, all the eyes are looking at each other, and everyone believes, okay, well, I'm just going to do my job, and the next person will do his, and we'll collectively stop them. And to date, we've been very successful.
Nancy Rose, CBC News, with Brown's Bootleggers in Manotick.
Bootleggers #1! Go, Mr. Brown!
Dig out your warmest clothes and get out and cheer the Ottawa Bootleggers on. They're playing Racine, Wisconsin for the U.S. Minor Football Alliance title. The Bootleggers aren't from California, Idaho, or Tennessee. They're Canadian. They're local guys from this area, from Ottawa, Gloucester, Nepean, and Canada. There's probably one living down your street or in the same building. They don't make any money from football. They play for fun, and they do it well. 12 wins, no losses so far this year. It's costing the Bootleggers around $20,000 to hold the final here. They need and they deserve our support. I'm Brian Smith.
Long johns were as prevalent as shoulder pads at Lansdowne today, so Hannah. The local football season came to an end this snowy Saturday at Lansdowne Park. The Ottawa Bootleggers hosted the Racine, Wisconsin Raiders for the North American Minor Football Alliance Championship. Dan Sagan has the details.
Bootleggers always boast of being tough, but there's no one tougher than the estimated crowd of 6,000 who braved absolutely frigid conditions to watch this ball game. Now, to make matters even worse, they had to wait half an hour for the game to get going, Racine refusing to play till the Bootleggers put their expense money in the bank. How's that for trust? Now, the field was covered with snow and ice. Still a familiar combination hooks up for the first score of the day. Rod Morris to Jamie Straw. He gets in behind the secondary and goes 62 yards for the touchdown. It's 7-0. The Raiders came into this matchup with a 12-1 one-loss record, and here's why. Running back Les White breaking through for an 80-yard run. He makes it into the end zone, but the cover is blocked. The Boots still lead at 7-6. It stayed that way till the final minute of the half. Racine moving out front on a 35-yard field goal by Steve Saunders. They led at 9-7 at the intermission. Late in the third quarter, Ottawa bounces back. After a fumble recovery, Mark Brown gets it in from the 2. They miss the extra point, but lead 13-9. Early in the fourth, the Raiders regain the lead for good. Quarterback Charlie Bliss connecting with number 81, Ron Daugherty, for a 65-yard touchdown. Once again, the convert is missed, making it 15-13. Now, the Bootleggers had several chances to move the ball back downfield, but up against a gale-like wind, the going was just a bit too tough, and the Raiders hold on for the 2-point win. 15-13, the final score.
Ron, your touchdown made the difference. Explain the play to me. It was very similar to one earlier in the game.
It was very similar to it. We noticed that they were playing a lot of double zone coverage, and they were leaving the middle open. So you kind of squeeze inside behind the linebackers. There's a seam there. And luckily, everybody else cleared out, did their jobs, and the field was open.
Give me your reaction to winning.
I'm going to Disneyland.
They overall have a class organization, and they came up here, played a fine football game, and we lost to a very good team. That's all there's to it. I think they did a good job when they were against the wind of eating up the clock, so we didn't get to use the wind. And then when they did have the wind, they made the most of it. So overall, a very good, solid football team. You got to hand it number 11. The quarterback did a very good job, and number 81 played a very good game for them too. So overall, hey, they're a good, solid team. You got to take your hat off to them.
For relief, many of them threw their support behind a local team of little-known North American Football League. Today, fans braved -25-degree temperatures to see the Ottawa Bootleggers take on their American rival for the championship. Chris Goldrick reports.
These guys don't get paid for this. Some are ex-pros who couldn't quite make it. Others are kids who wanted somewhere to play after college. They play for fun, and this season has been a lot of fun. Just 2 years after joining the North American Minor Football League Alliance, the Ottawa Bootleggers beat every one of their American opponents and finished first in their division.
We're number 1. We're going to kick these guys' butts. That's it. That's all. Game over.
Today, the Leggers, as their fans call them, faced their biggest test. They played the defending champs, Wisconsin Racine Raiders, for the North American Championship. Not only were the conditions terrible, but the turf looked more like an ice rink than a football field. The wind was howling, but a little weather doesn't bother Bootlegger faithful. These are special fans.
It's about -25 degrees with the wind chill factor. It's snowing like crazy, and we've got about 6,000 fans up there. They've got to be nuts.
They insist they're not crazy. They're just incredibly loyal. Many of them say they're fed up with the Canadian Football League's Ottawa Rough Riders, who once again had a losing season. Everyone loves a winner.
It's freezing, but it's beautiful. Unreal. Too much.
The atmosphere is unbelievable. You couldn't ask for a better atmosphere. This is what football is all about.
They're the best fans in the world, yeah!
The Bootlegger fans may be the best, but today their team wasn't. The Bootleggers led for a large part of the game, but ended up losing 15-13.
We could have done it, we didn't. My hat's off to Racine. They played a heck of a football game.
Even though the team lost this game, one thing they'll probably never lose are some of the most faithful fans in Ottawa. They say next year, the cup will come to Canada. Chris Goldrick, CBC News, Ottawa.
True Canadian fans.
Lansdowne Park for 3.5 hours, despite the worst weather conditions in memory. I couldn't believe it.
The temperature was -15, but with the wind chill factor, it had to be more like 40 below. Yet there they were, cheering the bootleggers on, making more noise than most crowds twice that size. I think it says something about the way the bootleggers play, and it says even more about the kind of people we have in this community. They knew the Boots, a bunch of local guys, needed and deserved our support. If you were there Saturday and have thawed out enough, then take a bow, because you certainly deserved it. I'm Brian Smith.
Now, we have someone on the line. Hopefully it's Alex Saunders with the Ottawa Bootleggers who's going to keep us up to date on what's going on. We'll try the line and see if it's here. Hello, you're on Sports View.
Yeah.
Hi, is this Alec?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is Alex Saunders, GM of the Ottawa Bootleggers. And Alec, we just wanted to have you on to basically talk about what's happening with the Bootleggers. I know we've had a change in coaching.
Okay.
Go ahead, you're on the air.
Well, we after the end of the season, December the 2nd, we settled down to get some reorganization done.
Mm-hmm.
Because up till now, the club has been run on a pretty sort of a loose basis, taking things as they come. But then we realized we had to get into a more business-like posture. Then along the way, Mike White took a look at his what he had to do, and his own career had to. He had to spend more time with his own career, and then he's a family man now. And so he decided that he'd better step aside from coaching for a while and get on with some other things. But he's still staying with the club as the president.
That's great.
And head of, and he'll be head of football operations. That's like servicing the needs of the coaches and the players through the coaches committee and the players committee, and also the equipment manager and the statisticians and game video operations. And that's the operations side. Then we restructured over on the support side of the organization under the general managers, under my team, which includes a marketing guy now and our business manager, Mark Brotman. But the marketing man is new, Mike Oates, and he brings expertise in the retail world, as well as he's a qualified, experienced manager in his own right.
Well, it sounds, Alec, like you've definitely streamlined things at the Bootleggers. Mike, did you have a question for Alec?
I just sort of want to compliment the job Alex has already done. I know probably you go back about a year, I guess, Alex, and when you were brought on as an offensive line coach, and I guess you just retired from your other job, and I guess you sort of thought things would be kind of calm and easy, and now you're basically doing, working almost, 7 days a week, and sometimes long hours. So I want to give you a pat on the back for the job you're doing there.
Well, thanks very much.
Alex, I hear that there might be some games involved with the Montreal team in the Empire Football League. Is that going to renew a little rivalry between Montreal and Ottawa again?
Oh, most certainly, because we're that close, and there's the opportunity for home and home kind of situation, so the Montreal fans can yell at us, and big Montreal fans can yell at them. But they're in the Empire Football League, and they already have a full schedule, and we're trying to get a game with them. And it might be possible, but they're sort of standing back and saying, "Okay, we'll see you guys in the playoffs."
This season,
that's pretty cocky, I think, but we'll take it tomorrow.
This season, you're going to run again as an independent team, and I was wondering if you're going to be seeing a lot of the same teams that you played last season.
Yes, some of them. Last year, as you know, as everybody knows, we were accused of playing patsies now and again, which really wasn't fair, because until we play a team, we don't really know what they're like. It's not like the CFL or the NFL or anything else, where you have game films on the other team and nationally published statistics and so on. And when you set your schedule, as we are right now in March, you're going on reputations that are passed on to you. You have to believe it. So anyway, we do know by experience now that some teams are quite weak, and we have no intention. We don't want to play them again. So we're lining up the best of last year. Plus, there's a few other teams that have contacted us and want us to play. One from Hartford, the Hartford Crusaders, and another team from Boston, the Cobras. They've contacted
So you're definitely sticking to the northeast then, which is smart, I think.
Well, yes, but so the New Jersey Oaks want to come up here, and the Frederick Falcons want to come back.
Just before we let you go, Alex, just talk about what's coming up this coming Friday. It's the second annual awards night, and I know you'd like to get as many people out as possible.
Yeah, we have the tickets placed at Ritchie Sports, La Croix Sports on Maryville Road, and the clubhouse on Maryville Road and Ogleby Road. So tickets are available there to the general public, and they're $10 each. And Lakeside Garden is limited in size, so people the public who want to be there, and also players who are listening in, better hustle and get in there and get the tickets, because it'll be a fun night, dancing and food and refreshments and some great door prizes.
Well, that sounds good. And again, thanks for calling us up here at Sports for Alex and letting us know what's happening with the Bootleggers. We'll be talking to you. We'll be talking to you as the season gets closer.
Okay, look forward to that.
Okay then. Bye-bye. Thanks, Alex. Bye now.
Your girls who are with us and answering the telephones today. Guys, if you're out there, you want to call in a pledge at 72 Heart, please do. There's a pretty good chance that you may get on the line with one of these lovely young ladies. Looking forward to an exciting season, bootlegger football in '90, I'll bet.
Oh, yes. I can't beat last year, though. Well, I guess we could beat last